What's up, everybody? This is the Black Swan Podcast, and we're your hosts. My name is Gabriel. We got Tori, we got Sean, and we have our special guest here. He's going to be going over real estate. I mean, this guy's in everything. He's in real estate. He's helping out with utilities. He's going all in. He used to be in the military before. So, welcome, Rafael Norat. Rafael, how you doing, man?
Hey, what's up, man? Tori, Sean, always a pleasure hanging out with you. This is the first time that we're doing a little thing here, like a little podcast, man. So it's gonna be fun, man. Never seen we get together in person. Doing this on a podcast it should be cool. It should be cool.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about you as a person. Like, how did you even get into the investment space? How did you get in the investment world?
Well, I got into investing out of necessity. I was an engineer, born and raised in Jersey. Um, was an engineer for the Army for 17 years, and loved my job.
Sorry.
Um, well, go ahead. What happened? You just got
No,
jump
I
that
said, I
sorry
said
in
I'm
there.
sorry.
You just gotta jump. You just gotta jump that sorry and see how this podcast gonna go. no, but, no, but I mean, I got involved out of necessity. I had a family situation that came about. Um, that it was my engineering income. My brother's, he had like still don't know what the hell my brother does, man. It's like a IT manager. He's like, and I got, I'm the worst with this, but look, good paying job that he had. My father's pension, like old school longshoreman pension, not a ton, not a 401k, a pension. And my mom had dementia. She came down with dementia, and my thing is, I wanted her to stay home. I would do. I've always been about exercise. If my mom had dementia, I would be like, I want to make sure I can exercise the mind. So I would do 3 days, 3 times a day. I would have the same conversation with her. So that's one thing with dementia. You get the same conversation, but with me, it was exercises. It was morning, lunch, and dinner. I would have those conversations. And I was afraid if she was in a nursing home, I couldn't get to have those conversations. So I was determined to keep her home. And it's like, it's almost like we talk about the law of attraction. When you start looking for something, that's where things start popping up. And right when I started thinking of that, I was like, what am I going to do? One of the contractors that I work with from Raytheon Labs in California, he mentioned that he had a rental portfolio, and this was back in the day, probably like 2010, probably 2010. He mentioned he lived in California, and he mentioned he had a portfolio in Los Angeles. A guy had bought 10 single family homes, and it was back when Fannie and Freddie would allow you to get up to 10 loans processed in your name. So he was overlooked for promotion, and he wound up picking up 10 properties. He was like, I already got my retirement set. So I don't want to bombard him with questions. And back then, Bigger Pockets was kind of like the main source out there. So I went on Bigger Pockets and started looking. And I, 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 my house, I owned my house, but I was able to pull out about 20K. Now, 20K in Jersey for me, not not knowing anything about real estate, not having teams or anything, not having a network. I was like, the places that I felt I would get started with were just rough areas in Jersey to where I was like, this isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna work for me. So I went on Bigger Pockets, started
This
looking.
city?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
This was the city, like Jersey
Um,
City. Or...
Oh no. This was no, not even Jersey City. This was more like 20 grand. You can't get started like Jersey City's like overpriced. I would have to get started in like Passaic, Newark, Irvington, and man, my lunch money would just be taken over there, man. I just did not have teams, and I just wasn't built for it. So I was like 20 grand. So I went on Bigger Pockets. I found a gentleman he was talking about 1820 cap units in Pennsylvania, and people were like laughing at him. And I was like, perfect. I was like, nobody's biting on this. I was like, I'm gonna go see what this guy's about. So I went down there. I went down to PA, And I met with him. The guy owned his own properties. He was wholesaling, but he owned his own properties. He had managed his own properties. He knew, the guy was well connected, I just started looking at properties over there, and it was a totally different world because in PA, it's like a coal miner town. So everything's slanted. So like if you put a marble in the kitchen, it's gonna roll right to the front room. If it just goes, if it could go, it'll go. And in the back, the basements were all gravel pits. So I thought it was crazy at first. I went back home, but then I was like, if I go back over there, the properties were very cheap. Like over there, you could buy at that point you could buy a property for say 25,000, put maybe 25,000 into it, and then have it that after repair value be 100,000. So you could buy it, pull your money back out, and then go buy another one. But I got used to the area. I went back there and I noticed all the floors were slanted, all the basements were gravel pits. So I knew what the baseline was. I got acclimated with it, and I took about 3, 4 months, and then I started buying. I bought my first property. I learned about hard money. I started leveraging. He knew the local credit unions, so I could refinance. He would manage it for me. So he helped me get started. So I always tell people it's all about your team, and that's a perfect example of how I got started. But yeah, I got started from there, and then 3 years, I just started buying more through him. I started learning how to market directly to people. Started sending out postcards, and just built it from there. 3 years, I picked up 40 rental units in 3 years, and did every mistake that you possibly could make on them as well. Learn from it. It took me about 3 years to stabilize them, but I did, and then that allowed me to leave my engineering job, and that was it.
You said 40?
I was about to
Yeah.
say 40 in 3 years, man. How did you, were they individual singles or you were just going in getting giant multifamilies?
No, no. What I did, so I had a simple goal. I was like, for my mom's money, I needed to help her. I was like, I want $3,000 a month in 3 years passive, to be able to help her. So in that case, over there, at that point, properties were rented. A 2 bed, 1 bath would rent out for about maybe 700, 800 bucks a month. So if I put in with all expenses, with contingencies, if I put aside for property management, maintenance, vacancy, probably get $150 a door. And that was with like real contingencies. Maybe 1 month it might be 300, 400, but then if you got a leaky pipe or you got put, you have capital expenditures. So 150 bucks a door. So I said $3,000 a month, 150 bucks a door. I need 20 doors. So I didn't care. Like sometimes, like I said, when desperation will make you like, I didn't care what the door was. I don't care if it's a 20 unit or 20 singles. I don't care what. So in that case, it kind of opened up the possibilities for me, and Luzerne County, Pennsylvania, where I was at, there were a lot of singles and duplexes, triples, quads. So the first two I bought were duplexes, and then I bought a triple. I bought a triple for 25,000, and I put in like 100,000 into that thing. They made me I put in like 60,000 into that. And then they told me since it was a 3 family, I needed 6 parking spots. I built out a parking deck. I built out a parking deck in the back of this thing. You could land a plane on it, man. It was crazy. It was just like 3 stories of cement, and that thing. But I was able to get my money back out. I was one of the craziest. It wound up being 2 workers. 2 workers wound up finishing that, man. I would go back. I'd be like, oh my God, man. It's just John and I forget the guy's name, man. But that was the most frightening parking deck, and the only parking deck I ever built. But that got me up to 7 units. And then this guy was doing a local auction, and he had a 4 unit, a 2 unit, a 3 unit, and then another single that could turn into two. So he was auctioning his whole portfolio off for like, I think 150 grand, and I mean, that was probably close to, I think that was like 11 units. So 150 grand, those are great numbers. And they didn't need much work. So I guess this guy was expecting he wanted to do a private auction. Nobody really showed up. And my guy, Steve, that helped my mentor, he bargained with him. He said, "Hey, look, I got somebody to give you 100 grand for it." So I wound up getting that whole lot for 100 grand. And then I used hard money. And then even for the down payment, I had a private investor that gave me like 40,000 because I had money tied up in another project. And then, I promised him once I refinanced it, the whole portfolio appraised for like 220 or so forth. So I was able to rehab it and get him his money back. And then that got me up to like close to 20 quickly.
When you said you went through all these trials, and you said that you went through so many different things, but it was the desperation of it, that no matter what it was, no matter what was happening, it was just, you constantly had to keep on fighting because you had no other option. I completely understand from that approach, man. My grandmother had dementia too. So I thought it was funny when you're saying she's saying the same exact questions over and over again. Mine would be, my grandmother would always ask what time it is.
Mm.
It was like dealing with that back to back to back. It was a lot, but you had to fight because at the same time too, there's nobody else who's there. So while you were going through all those struggles, kind of swinging back to the real estate end, what type of mistakes did you meet? Like when you were hustling, when you were trying to fight because you had to make ends meet, what type of issues were you getting into? What type of struggles were you getting into? How were you overcoming them? Can you kind of delve us into one of your stories?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, a couple things. Like one, like when you're buying distressed properties, especially older properties, one of the biggest things is that you're going to look at is your electrical and your plumbing. So a lot of times, and you come into it, you guesstimate at first in terms of what your budget is. And then one of the biggest things you're going to say, oh, I don't have to replace all the plumbing. Let me just replace so forth. And then you don't replace what's behind the walls. So if I would have known, I would have just I would just replaced everything, from the get-go, because sometimes cutting corners like that, you'll have copper pipe behind the walls. And then once the tenant moves in, the house could look beautiful without tenants in there. But then once the tenants move in and they start using facilities, that's where stuff starts breaking. So then you get calls of my roof's leaking, or I got a leak in my living room, got water coming in. And then, so it wound up being what should have been upfront costs, wound up being long-term costs, you know. And then the vetting, my mentor was great at finding properties, but he wasn't exactly the best property manager. I didn't have a Sean Brinson in my pocket back in the day. So it's like, you walk in, tenants walk in, just one couple, and then all of a sudden, 5 months later, it's one couple, three family members and 5 dogs, and then it's like when you get that, it's like the minute when they get out of there, then you gotta defumigate the place, replace the carpets, then your turnover is killing you, you know. Yeah, so stuff like that, that 3 unit that I bought, I didn't know. I probably could have been better off keeping it as a 2 unit, but I wanted to make it 3 unit. When I made it 3 unit, I didn't realize, that I needed to, I thought they would let me go with street parking. They didn't. I had to build an entire parking deck, man. That parking deck probably costs about 25, 30,000, in terms of putting that thing together, so stuff like that. Luckily I bought it at the right price to where I was able to kind of sustain it. It just took longer to stabilize the properties and be able to profit to the point to where I was getting what I expected per door and was able to leave. So
So what you're saying is that that $20,000 to $30,000 for the deck that put you behind.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 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 So it took me a while to be able to recoup on that one, but then like I said, like that property that I got at that auction, that kind of that offset it. I think when you're growing a portfolio, the biggest hurdle is when you're going from like 3 units to like 10 units, because it's like that in between part, that if you get one or two hiccups, you just don't have that many units to be able to cover the cost. But the fact that I was able to find that portfolio of like 10 units that really didn't have much damage to it, that helped me offset the cost. So I was kind of breaking even with the other units, you know, um, trying to cover those costs without coming out of pocket. Then once I stabilized those, then it was a true portfolio and started profiting. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, because I really want to take you back. Like, how did you grow up, and where did you grow up?
Shoot, man. I grew up back in the day, grew up in Irvington, but Irvington back when I grew up was nothing like it is now. I mean, it was a very simple city, you know, not, it was shoot, just kind of like, I don't know. I just like normal middle class. I kind of grew up, we get some money, go over, get comic books at the corner of the street, and go get go eat sweet tarts and all that stuff, man. Just simple stuff. But then I moved to Union County, to Rahway, New Jersey. Moved over there probably when I was like in kindergarten, and then just pretty much grew up there, But yeah, no, just like a normal middle class. I kind of grew up. My parents were always there. You know, um, thank God. And just yeah, I had no complaints, no complaints. Pretty much growing up. My father was a longshoreman, for like 50 years, so my mom pretty much took care of me and my brother for the most part. But, we did the usual stuff that you would do in Jersey. You go to Wildwood, down the shore for a little bit, on the summertime, and, take one or two vacations, just kind of normal middle class stuff. Left high school. When I left high school, I left, I was one of the people. I remember this to the day. Me and Tony Nunez. The last day of high school, I went to the guidance counselor's office, and I found Tony Nunez there. I was like, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" He's like, "I'm getting college applications, man. I gotta go get college." And I was like, "You got any?" He's like, "Yeah, I got Union County College." So I was there the last day of high school getting college applications. And I wasn't very prepared, man. So I went to what did I do? At that point, I I told my mom I was in I was in I was in bands at that point. I had long hair. You guys be bugging out if you see my old picture. I had hair almost down to my
Yo, you haven't
waist.
shared none of the music.
Yeah, no, I didn't have anything to share here, but no, I was like, my mom was like, I think when we for my graduation dinner, I was like, let's just go to McDonald's, man. I was like, yo, I don't want to go out there. Let's just go get some chicken nuggets, man. Go out McDonald's. My mom was like, all right, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do now? I was like, Mom, I'm gonna go. I want to go. My friend Chris St. John, he had his act together. He was going to USC in California. I was like, Mom, I'm gonna drive with Chris. I'm gonna go to USC, and then I'm just gonna drive back, and just kind of see the country, and then I'm gonna go to Juilliard Music School. I already had my plan. I was like, I'm gonna go to Juilliard, and she was like, yo, that's good. I love that. I like that. But before you do all that, I want you to get a trade. So I was like, all right, I gotta get something quick. So I started looking, and back then they had DeVry Technical Institute. I had no idea what it was, but it was a technical institute. So I went, and I had a little brochure, and you had electronics technician, a couple other things. I was like, the lady asked me something, I was like, look, I don't see myself in a suit and tie. I'm not a suit. She's like, electronics technician. That's you. I was like, perfect. I went back. I was like, Mom, I'm gonna be an electronics technician. That's what I'm gonna do. And then I'm gonna go to Juilliard. She's like, okay, okay. so, so I went to the ride and I started, I guess my brain started working again. Everything I lost in high school. And I started thinking, I was like, man, I kind of wouldn't mind that suit, man. This is kind of, I should kind of, I was like, then I went back to county college. I was like, you know what? Spoke to my parents. God bless them, man. I spoke with them and I was like, you know what? I'd like to at least go back to college. So I went back to Union County College and then I kind of caught up on everything that I messed up on. And then I transferred over to New Jersey Institute of Technology for electrical engineering. As I started as electronics technician, I got my degree in DeVry, but then I was like, I want to do more. So I went out for engineering, went to NJIT. I had a study group. And this is kind of where we all learn about masterminding. So I had a mastermind group. I didn't even know it was. But these Spanish guys are very competitive, man, very competitive. And they kept my GPA high as an electrical engineer.
When you say competitive, you mean competitive academically?
Yes. Yeah, very competitive academically. We would study together, man, but when we were, I had a great GPA, and then everybody was doing their masters, and I was like, man, I can't hang with these dudes anymore, man. This is just too much. And I told them, everybody picked what they were doing their masters in, and I was like, I'm gonna do biomedical. And they were like, what? Why are you doing biomedical? I was like, perfect. These guys ain't going biomedical. So I wound up doing a master's in biomedical engineering. And then from there, I don't know what happened. I was at a job fair, and I think that's where I saw the Army Picatinny Arsenal. There are Army Research Development Engineering Center to where they would design the weapons for the Army, and they would just do more like research and development and then one-offs, and then send it to full rate production. But I gave my resume. They reached back out to me, and I had a super fun job over there, man. Yeah, it was just, I worked in a directed energy branch. I would design directed energy weapons, and it was fun. It was fun. I would do tons of experimentation. Um, you know, can't really tell you guys much about it. Sean probably knows about it. Sean probably knows about it. He ain't gonna tell you. He ain't
Sean,
gonna tell you.
Sean has those same stories that he can't say nothing about.
We did a little tiny like intro.
I'll tell you one funny story. So for my master's program, I had to build it. There's a spider. Hang on. I hate spiders. Oh man. For my master's program, I had to build this amplifier. And it was for they called it the Drowsy Driver Data Acquisition System. So Drowsy Driver Data Acquisition System. And basically what they were trying to do is set something up. So if you're driving and you're dozing off, the horn goes off, or the AC kicks in or something. So they wanted to set up like a magnetic system that would go in your headrest so it could notice. And the thing is, if you close your eyes, it's called the occipital region in the back of your head. An electric signal pops up. So they were trying to see when this electric signal pop up, my amplifier would pick it, and then it would send off something in the car, or so forth. So before we get to the magnetic part, I had to tie electrodes to people's heads and be able to, when they close their eyes, I could see the signal. And then my amplifier had to amplify it. So initially, somebody was supposed to do all the hookups, set up the electrodes. They're called electroencephalogram, EEGs. Somebody was supposed to set that up. That student left. So my professor was like, for you to finish your thesis, you have to figure that you got to do this. So I went to one of the local hospitals and I set in on a epileptic seizure study. and epileptic seizures, they would record their EEGs. So I learned how to record that because I had the amplifier, and then I would hook it up. And I don't even know how they let me hook this stuff up, man, because there was no safety protocol. So I would bring my dad. I brought my friends into the lab, and I would cook because you needed a ground. So I would use their ears, a ground, and then I would have those electrodes. I had no idea what I was doing. I brought my dad in. I would have him in the dark for like an hour, and like I'm trying to read something. I was like, close your eyes, open your eyes, close your eyes. But then I wound up going to the hospital and I sat in on a study, and then I noticed how they did it. And the minute I went back, then I figured it out. And then I got that done. But yeah, I did that. Then I went over to the army, worked over there. And then, towards the tail end, that's where my mom's health went a little, you know, went the wrong way. And then that's where desperation brought me into real estate and led me to where I'm now.
So, Raf, where did you get this entrepreneurial spirit? Like, when I first met you, full disclosure, man, you sounded like Jordan Belfort from Wolf of Wall Street. Like, as soon as I always tell the story, dude. When you hooked me, it was immediately like, "Hey, man, I understand. I understand you had a really long day, man. So have I. But in the reality of this, in the grand scheme of the situation, you got 5 minutes to listen to this rock star thing that I'm going to tell you about." And from there, man, it's just you've been so real and you've been so relatable in your approach that I always tell my buddies, I always tell Tori and Sean, like, you are the ideal salesperson, man, because you are so adaptable in so many different ways. You'll adapt to another person, read them, and then be able to immediately reflect to be able to not only pitch, but you show genuinity with your pitch.
Yeah.
There's an amazing quality to you, man, and where'd that entrepreneurial spirit even come from?
Wait, before you answer that, I wish he would have said the social security number.
Oh, what? What's
Oh, I told them the story when you were signing me up for something before. And I was like, man, I feel sort of uncomfortable giving my social security number. And you were like, all right, hang on a second. Yeah, I understand you're uncomfortable. I get it too. You know what? Just do me a favor. Can you write this number down for me? Get a pen and pad. You got one on you? All right, 7. No, like you gave a whole number. You're like, by the way, that's my social. Just like you can throw it out, do whatever you want to it. Just don't take it. And then it cracked me up.
That's funny. That got you on board. That got you on board, man. Yeah. But all that is from experience and just the people that you're around. Like in my case, I don't look at it like I look at it as building trust and rapport. First, the biggest thing I got from my mom was empathy. My mom was most moms are always old school moms are always very empathetic to the point they forget about their own health. But my mom, that's where I got that from, man. She was always able to put herself in other people's shoes, and then, within everybody's in sales. Whether people think it or not, they're in sales. When you're in a relationship, you're in sales. Any kind of relationship. You're going out at on a Friday night or something. Like, hey, listen, man, you think we go to Serafino's Pizza? That pizza was so good, man. The sauce was great. Can we go to Seraf? You're selling what you want to go eat. So you're always in some sort of sales. If you're at a 9 to 5 job, you're selling somebody something. You do a presentation, you're selling somebody something. So the Army kind of taught me that at first. I was a project manager, and a lot of it, a lot of getting awarded projects wouldn't be about who had the best project. It would be who gets the job done, but who do they relate to the most. So a lot of it would be to understand more about them, more about their life, more about what they do, more about how are they on a certain day. So I started understanding that much more, understanding the requirements of what it is, but at the same time, kind of digging more into the person and understanding them more on a personal note, you know. Um, And in books, How to Win Friends and Influence Others by Dale Carnegie. That to me, in terms of building rapport, because it's all stages, man. It's first, if you read that book, it'll tell you first you have to be friends, then you can influence, and then you can create leaders. That to me is the best book. If you want to do sales like that, to me, and with me, sales is long term commitments. I'm not looking. I don't do products to where I'm looking to have somebody buy something for a one time. To me, everything I do is long term commitments. So if you establish first as friends, then you can create influence. And then from there, once you can influence them, you can create leaders, and then you can create distribution. That to me is that the absolute formula. That to me, that between that and my natural empathy that came from my family, to me, that's what's guided me to where I'm at now.
You know what's hilarious though? The fact that you went from sticking electrodes on on people and then switched immediately to going straight into sales. Like it's such polar opposites, you know? And it's funny because it's like Tom Hopkins said the exact same thing with the art of selling. He always used to say that it's more so everybody's in sales. It's just a certain art of being able to appeal to different personality styles.
It's still technical. There's still a technicality to it. Like when I was building that amplifier, I still had to figure out how it connected to the electrodes, and then how the electrodes connected to the head, and then how the ground connected. And then from there, how it pulled out the signal, how I amplified the signal, and then where it went to. So in real estate, it's the same thing. You're building teams. Like you got to make sure everybody is it's still very technical, you know, but then it involves humans. So you have to understand how to influence, and then how to create leaders, and then you use becoming friends as that starting point. So it's still, to me, it's still the same thing. It's still projects, like I had a 35 unit that I sent out project in Indianapolis that I sent out to somebody, that I sent it out to a syndicator, but there's not really a value add play to where I put that syndicator with the short-term rental specialist to see if they can create value on that. So to me, that's kind of putting pieces together. It's still just being technical about that, but then creating opportunities. So to me, I'm still hooking up electrodes, man. I'm just kind of doing it differently, and just learning best. Sometimes I got people in the dark for like an hour, the same way I had my dad in the laboratory, but you know, overall, I graduated. So, I mean, as long as you keep working at it, it'll work. So to me, it's kind of the same. Like I said, I think sales is building rapport. And I think that's in everything, man. That's in everything. You're selling somebody, let's say the gas company let's say you got a rental, and the gas company is supposed to be there at 12. And I know Sean's maintenance guy will be there on time, but then, I call my maintenance guy and say, oh man, I just stopped at Home Depot. I should be there at 1:45. And then the gas company called. I have to sell him why he should stay. Say, look, just do me a favor, please. The gentleman just had an issue. He's coming by, but he's going to be there in a second. I'm going to make sure, but, just do me a favor. I'm selling to him why he should delay his life for 45 minutes for me. So sales is just constant, and the more you realize that, the better off your life is going to be, so everybody's in sales.
I think I bring it around off the topic of real estate and personal life, but I did want to ask you this though. So me, I am a big advocate of Andrew Tate, and he is an advocate of a high value man. And what he says is men need scars, events that happen in their life that they overcame, stressful events, X, Y, Z. And I want to bring it back to what kind of scars did you go through to get where you're at now? Like, did you have any ghost stories, or near death experiences? You looked at sea? Any good stories you came about and came through and got you where you're at now?
Sure. Well, I would say that like the biggest one the one that kind of set things off were my mom coming down with dementia, because that just completely changed. That completely changed everything. At that point I became obsessive, with making sure that her health was right. That just made me think absolutely differently. That's literally what brought me into real estate. If that didn't happen, I probably would have been sitting there at a 9 to 5, for much longer, and not leaving. I don't know what, it took that event to create that, you know. And then, once she passed away, my father passed, I lost both of my parents in the last 5 years, so that in and of itself, that just creates something, you you grow, it's
Create
those events that,
creates an energy in you.
those,
You gotta do something
yeah,
with it.
yeah, those kind of things just, you know, it's like when you realize, like, if you, it's like when people say, man, why don't this person see this? Why don't they change? How is it? You'll have family members that you're like, how is it? Why don't they get up? Why don't they do something? What does it do? And I easily could have been, and you know what? I don't know. I mean, I was as an engineer. I had what I thought was, security, and I was kind of coasting. I'd be at my engineering job, and be able to just kind of work for 4 hours. The other hours just kind of goof off. I didn't know. But when things started happening with my mom, I don't know. It kind of brings you to your purpose, like that literally brought me that's what woke me up at when I was an engineer, and said, well, what am I doing, man? I'm sitting here with 2 laptops at work, and it's not very genuine, to be sitting here and doing something else. That really made me start thinking of, like, what am I doing? I'm kind of coasting. What am I really supposed to do? And then from there I left, and then that's where, it's almost like when you take a safety net away, that your intuition starts kicking in, or you start feeding off of your intuition that much more,
Mhm.
because
Yeah,
I from there,
it's
and
called
this,
the red pill. You took the red pill.
yeah, yeah. So
You
I
finally seen
started
what was happening
noticing,
in the Matrix.
things. The minute I left my job, and I was sitting there for like 3 years, like, man, I'm gonna leave in a month. I'm gonna leave in 3 months. I'm gonna leave, and I could never pull a trigger. Then once my mom passed away, me and Sandra took a trip to Dominican Republic. First time I ever been there, and right there, I just started noticing stuff, because I never really been around, that many Dominicans at once, you know. And then it started feeling like there was we were at a beach one time, and there was like a training session, like a leadish, like a I don't know, it was like, it seemed like a business training session, and a bunch of Dominicans just going through this training session, and something like, I kind of started connecting to where I was like, I almost felt the laughter that they had, made me think of my Aunt Juanita's house, when they would all get together on the third floor, and I don't know, something from that trip, when I went back, I said, I'm out, you know. And then when I left, um, I met this. I was like, I got to start advertising myself. I got to start advertising. And when I went on Facebook, I saw this realtor that I grew up with him, but he grew up in our same neighborhood. But when I was like 8, he was like 4. So he was always like, we weren't directly friends, but he was always like, brother's friend. And I noticed something about him. Like, he was like, something, like, I could just tell in his case, you know, something about him was glowing through Facebook. I was like, yo, I don't know what this kid has, man, but I gotta talk to him. And when I spoke to him, I was like, what's up? And he had been through a traumatic situation where he had a serious illness and gone back from it. And man, we just started speaking and kind of catching up on kind of telling tales of the neighborhood and stuff. And I just loved his energy. And he told me, he was like, I'm going to this self-development seminar. I was like, I don't care what it is, I'm going. I'm going. So I told Sandra, my better half, I was like, look, we're going to this thing. I was like, I don't know what it is. It was a self-development seminar that it was Friday, Saturday, 10 hours. Like you're 10 hours, and it was probably Friday, Saturday for 10 hours. Sunday, you would go back home, and then Monday, you would go back for like 4 hours. But Friday, Saturday for like 10 hours, and it was just self-development and just reflecting. And I went there for business, because I was like, I at that point, I had started a brick and mortar business, and I was struggling a little bit with my partnership, and I went there on a business note. And then you got somebody else coming in? Are you good?
Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah, but I went there on a business note, and that personal that self-development seminar just turned real personal. And I left there, saying I am the possibility of people becoming their ultimate true selves. So that's what I got away from that. Friday, Saturday, 20 hours. We were just it was probably about 150 people from every walk of life. And I left there saying, I am the possibility of people becoming their ultimate true selves. When I left there, I was like, damn, what do I even do, man? Like, who do I help? Would I help everybody? How do I monetize this? And that really opened me up. Then I took it to another level with self-development, through that as well too. And that just really made me think. We got a lot of phrases out of there that kind of said like hurt people, which makes you kind of think differently. If somebody's hurting somebody, it's because they're really hurt themselves. So it just that kind of opened me up. And once again, that kind of strengthens your empathy muscle, and then from there,
So,
that's kind of where yeah.
Let me ask you this. You were
question.
speaking about
Oh,
self-development.
sorry.
So did this situation, this experience get you to start going into the gym and start working on yourself and your body and everything? Or did you do that beforehand?
No, I was doing that before. Like I was always about some sort of performance, like way back in the day. Like in grammar school, I was always breakdancing. I was always liking to perform. But then after that, I wound up getting into rock bands. Then I was playing guitar for a while, and then I got into how I got into fitness. I think when I was in fitness when I was in a rock band. I was just monkey see, monkey do. People started going to the gym, and then I started going to the gym. But I've always been for a while in fitness. I competed for a while. Tried turning that into a business, but bodybuilders are broke. They can't pay for diets for the most part. You know, Shout out to the
Man,
bodybuilders. I was one of the.
we wish we had a picture from that band, but uh Gabe has something.
Yeah,
Listen, okay. We
what you
can
got,
edit
man?
this out if you don't want if you don't want it in the podcast. But they
What
ended
you got, man?
ended up finding this
Oh yeah, you could. Yeah, I'm
little
Googleable.
picture right
I'm
here.
Google. Yeah.
The
I was
old
back in the
school
day.
bodybuilder style, man. What?
Yeah. I was
Dude.
back in the day, man. That was my science. That was my science
Yeah,
experiment, man. That
that'll be
was
my
fun.
profile picture the rest of my life.
This is like Arnold Schwarzenegger style, man.
That's funny, man. Yeah. I competed for a while. I love that. I would diet down for for these competitions. I would diet down like 18 weeks, and I probably did people normally do like 4, but I enjoyed like the whole posing and stuff, man. Because to me, it was artistic. Like when I stopped playing guitar to me was artistic. When I stopped playing, I started bodybuilding. When I started bodybuilding, playing guitar was kind of like posing, you know. So I would spend like 4 weeks and I would just barricade myself for 18 weeks, man. I wouldn't talk to nobody. I wouldn't see nobody. It was just eat, sleep, train, eat, sleep, train. I'll go to work, but they would even know I was dieting, so they would help me, you know. But yeah,
How long
yeah,
would you,
yeah.
how long would you be in the gym for? Two
Mm,
days, 3 days straight?
no, I would probably do like maybe 2 hours the most in a day, you know. I would do like 2 hours. Sean, you would have loved it, man, because I would record so much data. I had like, man, I got to look up, see if I found my own computer,
Pause.
my old sheets, man. I would record everything, like in terms of what calorie deficits I was making on one day and the next day, and then average it out over 7 days, and then compare it to my body fat for 1 week, and then do it the next one. Yeah, so that was very technical.
How did you
Yeah,
get to be that disciplined in something like that? Just discipline, period.
yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. Like I was, I don't know. I always kind of dove into. I always liked excelling at stuff. You know, I was always been very competitive, like just stupid competitive. You know, just I create competitions in my own head sometimes just to create competitions. You know, so I've
Big,
always,
big Baki
yeah,
over here.
yeah. I was always, I'm one of them. Yeah, I was always, I still am. I still am. Even everything we do now, I'm still always ultra competitive.
Question: how did you even get into bodybuilding? Were you like tired of life, or tired of being in the matrix? You had to do something.
No, it was very, yeah, that would be like that would be nice. It was just boring. You know, it was just my friends started. I didn't want to lose out. That's how I got into playing guitar. Like, you know, my friends that we hung out, we would be like, you know, once say, hey, let's start a rock band. You know, I was like, well, they're like, well, I'm gonna do drums, I'm gonna do guitar, I'm gonna do this. I was like, I'm gonna do lead guitar. And the same thing, me being competitive, you know. So one of
Did
them,
y'all
Johnny White,
did y'all
Johnny
play
want to
like
be
the actual
specific.
game first before y'all got into it? Rock band, the rock band, the
No,
game.
they didn't. No, I'll date myself. I don't think they had rock band back then, man. They didn't have no rock band. We had chord. We had Tori and Gabe don't even know about this. If you had to talk on the phone, you had the cord phone, the phone with the cord that went to the wall. Then you had to sit. I had to go into my mom's bedroom. I go into my mom's bedroom and I'd take the phone out and close her door. I'd be sitting there in the living room, be like, yeah, hey, what's going on? You know, but yeah,
Back in the dark ages.
yeah, no, people just start, everybody just started going to the gym, and then, John White started first. I was like, oh man, Johnny's going to the gym. I'm gonna go to the gym, you know. Then of course, what can you do? What can you do with it? You know, yeah. I even have a book. I have a book that I wrote, PDF. I'll actually send it to you guys. It's actually really good. I never finished it.
Whoa,
Well, no, I
hold on, hold on,
finished
hold on,
it.
hold
Hey,
Yeah,
on for a
promote
second.
this?
yeah.
Book. What kind of book? Is it
Oh,
ebook,
it's a
a real
good
book,
book
or
too. No. It's a book. I called it Ready, Aim, Fire. Ready, educate yourself for what you want to accomplish. Aim, set up a plan. Fire, execute your plan. It was something like that. It was a bodybuilder's guide to winning.
Is this an
Um,
ebook? Is this something we can promote? Because we'll put it up into the.
I'll send it. I'll send it to you. Here's the problem. Like it took, and I've always been about projects. Like I researched. It was when I was at engineering. I researched and I took like 6 months and I went through. I took my old physiology book. I took exercise physiology book. I did like 5 books. Did a whole bunch of notes, and then did my table of contents, and then I wrote it. And it took me. I would write like at the end of the day, I would write like 3-4 pages a day. That's like 100 pages, double space, very technical, very technical. So I'll send it to you guys. What happened was, by the time I was done writing it, this post workout shake came out that kind of, I didn't want to include it. It was just too much for my brain. And like I would buy separate ingredients and mix them together. So the book showed you how to mix it. Sean, you would love this. And I would show like how to mix waxy maize with this, with that, and how to make sure that your blood sugar level didn't go up too high, and then when to drink it. Very technical, man. So
So
it's actually
basically, you got a home
it's a
recipe for
really,
steroids.
I'll send it to you guys. It's a really good book, man. Like
So
it's a
you
good book.
basically create a book for homemade steroids.
Pretty much without the anabolics, without the anabolics. But it was a good book, man. That's actually really good.
Yeah, man, we
Yeah.
definitely need to promote that. And then on top of it, kind of if we can touch on a little bit about how you're linking up. This is flipping scope now. How you're linking up utilities up into real estate right now. Like kind of digging into that business. Want to touch on that or no?
Absolutely, yeah. So in real estate, so I mean, building up my portfolio, obviously, like I said, I had to stabilize it a little bit. I did so many issues to it. When I was building it, to where there's so many fluctuations in real estate. Like they say, in owning properties, you got three T's: the toilets, tenants, and termites. That you're just gonna have fluctuations up and down. So the utility part of it is something, that's very stabilizing. Look, tenants are gonna pay their gas, electric. They're gonna pay their utilities before they pay the rent. If same thing what happened when the coronavirus, when the pandemic started and people stopped paying, people kept paying their utilities. So it's probably one of the most stable parts of real estate. A lot of people in real estate don't know about, but that's a huge part of what we do within our real estate network now, nationwide, and it just creates stability to
And
a
you
portfolio, but there's so many different ways of adding it, but that's one of them. But it's all about creating stability in what you do, and being able to do it within a team environment, and and just diversify your portfolio. You want to have rental, you want to have utility income, you want to have you know commissions come in from different areas, so you want to have diversity, and that always helps, especially now with Zoom. There's just so many ways of being able to build out your team and network and being able to create that. So it just comes down to diversity.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
For anyone who wants to start getting into real estate, what would your advice be to them?
First, I would tell them, go to Real Estate R Us, man. Go see that Facebook page and get on that group. That's number one.
Quick plug.
But look, to me, it's all about. I tell people, you got to invest in people, not assets. If people are what's going to ultimately lead to your success. Because even if you get an asset, you're still going to have property managers handle it. You're still going to have, there's still going to be people involved. So the better off your network is, the better off you are. Kind of like they say, your net worth is your network. I think ultimately you can invest in a property next door and lose all your money because you just don't have the right crews. But meanwhile, you could find people that you connect with, 1,000 miles away via Zoom, and have an incredible investment. So to me, the first thing is just laying out, seeing all the different opportunities in real estate, because there's just so many different opportunities now. I think it's so different from when I got started, and now with Zoom to me has just completely changed it, because you're not relegated to your physical environment. You can go, you do what we're doing right now. So the biggest thing for me is everybody just kind of laying out everything, all the different aspects of real estate, and then speak with like a subject matter expert in each one of those, and then from there you start understanding where you naturally fit the best, and then from there you can start working within there and kind of building your team, you know.
Kind
Yeah.
of touched on that point before. It's really you're not even in the sales business anymore. You're in the sorting business.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and that's right. You know, um, but and it's like big thing is picking one of those. You kind of you see this with Sean how he builds his businesses all the time. You gotta let's say you look at storage homes, syndications, traditional rentals, and short-term rentals. You could I would say take time, take a month and learn on each, you know, and then from there see who you're speaking with, what type of teams you could build, and then from there dig into one of them, until you're able to really build in that area to where you build a good system and you got something established, and then from there, once if you got a good short-term rental system established, then you know what, then you can maybe if that thing can run on its own, then you start looking at another one, and seeing, but it's just not trying to do four different things at once. That's a mistake people do, because I mean, it's you truly, you ultimately fail when you quit, because you're gonna fail when you win, but it's what ultimately happens, and you're gonna win as long as you don't quit, so it's just kind of, sticking on one path. You see people a lot of times say, oh man, I want to look at duplexes. I want a duplex. And then they're like, hey man, well, what do you think about this condo in Mexico? And it's like, which one you gonna focus on? Just focus hard on one,
Mm.
and just work that, and then you can shift, because if you try, that's where you get in trouble. If you try and do too many things at once, then you try and hand something off too quickly, it'll fall apart, you know.
Mm. How do you do?
So,
Staying sticking with it until you're successful.
Yeah, 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 and yeah, absolutely.
so I got one more question for you. So I'm big advocate of reading and knowledge is power and everything like that. So, for the audience here, and any new real estate investors here, what is your three biggest books that pretty much helped you out in your life? I mean, real estate wise or mindset wise, XYZ. Three biggest books you read so far.
Hmm. Well, I would say from real estate standpoint, The Millionaire Real Estate Investor by I believe Gary Keller. That one where he says, that's a very, very simple book, to kind of break down in terms of real estate, in terms of think a million, buy a million, own a million, and receive a million. So that's the same thing. Think first, then buy, then own it for a while, hold on to it, and then, own a million. So from a real estate standpoint, I think that is one of the best books. It's very, I would say, I mean, it's very, I don't say simple, but it's very easy to understand, to kind of grasp your head around long-term investments. So from a real estate standpoint, I think that. Um, from a networking standpoint, How to Win Friends and Influence Others by Dale Carnegie. That to me is absolute. Even people that do sales, that speak to people quickly, they're still running through that process. They just running through it much faster. You know, well, absolutely that. And then the third one, I read this thing like this is my third time of reading this. Is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. This is like a Bible. This is like a mindset Bible to me, and it's the third time that I've read it, and you would think the book is different, but it keeps changing me. So it's like, man, my mentor told me read this 10 times. I'm only 3 times in. I'm trying to get the Sean's 5 a.m. Club book, but I got 7 more times to read this. And I'm the slowest speed reader you'll ever find. The slowest speed reader. I like study speed reading, but I just feel better when I read a little bit slower, so I slow it down. But Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That's that one. You got to read it 10 times though. So
No, I
yeah.
definitely agree with that.
I think those three those are good ones. You can go a lot of ways.
Sometimes you have to, you might reach a point in the book to where you have to stop because you can't really go on until you really digested exactly what you've already just read, and then put that into practice, and then you can move on to the next chapter. It's like,
yeah. It's like secrets in that book, man. That you just pick up when you read it a third time, man. I want to read it until I don't have any room to underline anything. I'm underlining it. I'm circling the hell out of it. I want to read it to where like all the letters, there's like nothing left to underline. That's when I know that I finished reading it. Man, if I can do that, then I know something good is gonna happen.
Well, Rav, I think it's hilarious. I read a ton of Gary Keller too, and there's another book that I don't know if you've read already. The One Thing. Have you ever read it?
Yeah.
That was the first book that ever got me into choosing Keller Williams as my first brokerage, because it was just like organization structure throughout. I still try to write down every single question on what my tops are and what my main priorities are.
Yeah, and it's literally all just focus. It's literally all just focus, man. That's I think that's the biggest thing in real estate that's the biggest thing in anything. Well, as an independent business owner, I think that's the biggest danger. It's always just focus because you want to get everything done. Or you just have so many things that come up, just kind of focusing on that, So yeah, absolutely. I think all those books,
I think
help on that.
For sure. I think one of my last questions is just, where do you see yourself in your business? You've gone through all of these different struggles. You've been through so many different hats at this point, and it's helped to guide you all the way up until this point. Where do you see yourself in the next 5-10 years projected?
Man, well, I think 2023 is just going to be a huge year for all of us. What you guys are doing, what we're doing at Real Estate Wealth Institute, our network is over 30,000 right now organically with no advertising. I think our AWI is going to be over 100,000 in 2023. It's going to be international. I don't even know. I don't even, I'm just super excited because I think, we're just going to create so much, and just create real estate in a colorful way. Real estate doesn't have to be, monotonous. It doesn't have to be local. None there's anything wrong with that, but why wouldn't you, expand? Why wouldn't you create other possibilities when you can? And I think we're all colorful people here, man. We just, you don't want to get bored, and you want to be able to, kind of enhance and see different cultures and create different things. So I think it's international. I see the next 5-10 years, local being international, easily 2024. I see things being, I see us just working on different international projects, just being, this podcast will be from, I don't know, from Sean will be in Jamaica, Gabriel be in Sweden, Tori be in the Galapagos Islands, and I don't know,
Why do you give me Sweden?
Like short-term rental. He'll be like, he'll be like starting like a project down the Galapagos Islands, man. That Sean will be managing, and we'll be doing it by Zoom. We'll be doing by Zoom, That to me, that's what's exciting. So yeah, I just see possibilities just endless. So, and having fun. Look at this, man. We're sitting here, towards the tail end of the night. Most people are just kind of watching, watching the NBA game or something, and then getting ready for their work. tomorrow. We're blessed to be able to. This is work. I mean, that in and of itself is a blessing, man. You know, so just more fun sharing and just building. You know, I think I think we're taking real estate to another level. You know, that's what I'm super excited. That's what I'm super excited to see. What was Sean? What Sean
Amen,
was
bro.
just showing 2 nights ago. I don't even know. I don't even know what to say. I don't even. But what Gabe is doing it in Cleveland. You know, and Torrey, forget it, man. Like Miami can't even catch up to Torrey's style yet. You know, like he just at a different level. You know, and once he starts, once people start knowing about what Torrey brings, it's gonna be incredible, man. So I don't even know how you get that orange tip behind you too, man. Like your story is he's at a different level. He's at a
Yeah,
different level with
like the
style, man.
old
Like
old school.
my thing's crooked. He could barely see it. Like Tori's just at a different level. He's got like that suave, like the peach. He's got like a peach setting, man. I don't even know what it's like, and he makes it look good. I look crazy. Like I would look like I got like a bad suntan if I was with this background, man. Be like, yo, Raf has just been out in the sun too long.
Appreciate you being on here, definitely, Ralph. You know, and telling your story. Anything, any last words you want to say to the listeners?
Yo, I would tell the listeners, be on the lookout for these 3 guys. You know, what you guys are doing is absolutely incredible. I'm super excited to be working with you guys. You know, biggest thing I always tell people is givers gain. You know, people in real estate looking for a duplex. When you stop looking for a duplex and start helping others, then that's when you're going to find the most amount of duplexes you're ever going to find. If you reverse engineer it and see how you help others first, and then you'll wind up getting everything you want. You know, be able to leave your job and do whatever you want. You know, and just keep going. Don't quit. That's the biggest thing. That's the only time you fail is when you quit. So
Raph,
that's it.
where can people find you? What's the best places for them to look for REWI? For you personally, what's the best places?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you look up realestatewealthinstitute.com. You know, look up realestatewealthinc.com. Look up Real Estate Wealth Institute. That's our real estate organization that we built through COVID from 3,000 over 30,000 organically. And that's just growing. That's just going to continue to grow. So you jump on the calls. We got calls Monday nights, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, Tuesdays, 10 a.m. Those are networking calls. We got people nationwide, worldwide. Jump on the calls, jump on, and you know, just check it out. Jump in and have some fun. Have some fun, learn, network, and grow.
For sure. Raphael, it's always a pleasure listening to you, brother. Every single time it's words of wisdom. This guy, guys, definitely check out Real Estate Wealth Institute. It's definitely worth every single minute. And then at the same time, you get to hear from Rafael Norat. You get to plug in your business. And at the same time, too, you get to listen to other people's plugs as well and do a little bit of networking on the side. So definitely check all of that information out whenever you get a chance. Rafael, it's been an absolute pleasure. My brothers, let's keep bringing them good content. Thank you all for listening. Rafael, this was our first official episode, so thank you so much for being our first.
Man, I'm honored, man, to be part of it, you know, and see what you guys are going to do, Real Estate or Us. I already know what you guys are going to do. You know, I got the inside scoop, so I'm super excited. 2023 is going to be crazy. Gabriel is frozen right now, man, but he's frozen at a good point. He frozen at a good point. You could tell he was dropping something. You could tell he was just dropping something. Arm looks like 7 feet long, but he was dropping something.
I'm nice. In with spirit, y'all. I'm in the spirit.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Ralph. We got to do a part 2 for you, man.
Absolutely, man. Let's do end of 2023 so we can see how everything panned out.
Sir.
All right. We'll try to get Gabe unstuck. In the meantime, thank you so much, Ralph, for hopping on to Black Swan. And this is the first of many, many, many coming down the line. So thank you again.
I appreciate it, guys. Have a great night.